Welcome, viewers and subscribers. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. So, large up everybody who have been watching the videos and who have been subscribing to the channel thus far. Big up on yourself, right? Maximum respect. So, as you can see, based on the topic of this video, I am going to have a short discussion with you as it relates to if you need an registered architect to do your residential building plan. So let me put that in the proper context. Residential building plan. So as it is, you know that there are mainly two types of buildings. There are commercial building and there are residential building, and there are also industrial building. So when you're building like a nuclear plant or some factory, that is constituted as a industrial building. But for your typical residential home, as your typical one-story or two-story home back in Jamaica, I am going to have a discussion with you if it is necessary to use a registered architect, or you can use a non-architect like a draftsman or a architectural technologist. As it relates to that statement, it's not a definite yes or a definite no to that statement. It's a matter of choice, right? So you can choose to use an registered architect if you want, or you can use a draftsperson, or you can use an architectural technologist, right? But that decision also must take into consideration your budget. So if you have a low to medium budget, I would not recommend that you use an registered architect. And let me qualify that statement, right? So for your typical one floor or two floor buildings, you do not have to use a registered architect to do that if you're operating on a low budget, right? But if you have the necessary financial resources, you can still use a registered architect if you so desire, right? Because the registered architect obviously is going to charge you more money to do your building plan as against a draftsperson or an architectural technologist. Based on my understanding, an architect is going to charge you a percentage of the building cost, while the draftsperson or the architectural technologist might charge you per square footage. Although some architectural technologists or some draftsmen still will go ahead and charge you as per percentage of the building cost, but I don't think it would reach the amount that an architect is going to charge you. And let me put it in context now. So the parish council or the local municipal authority will allow a draftsperson, a non-architect person, a non-architect, a draftsperson, or an architectural technologist to produce building plan up to 5,000 square feet. Some parish council or municipal authority, you can produce a building plan which is more than 5,000 square feet, and they do not ask you to have an architect or a professional engineer to stamp off on those drawings. But typically, the Parish Council allows a draftsperson and non-architect to produce building plan up to 5,000 square feet. And that's the reason why I've mentioned to some of the person who contact me that, especially if you are operating on a low budget, to keep your building plan below the threshold of 5,000 feet. Yes, I do know that some Parish Council in Jamaica will still accept the drawings from a non-architect, a draftsperson, or an architectural technologist with even more than 5,000 square feet. I have seen one of my friends submitted drawings up to close to 6,000 square feet, and it wasn't a requirement for him to have it stamped by a registered architect or a professional engineer. So I always emphasize that to my clients or people who have contacted me based on the fact that they want some amount of advice, minimize your drawings to less than 5,000 square feet, especially if you're operating on a low budget. Because to pay an architect and an engineer to stamp off on those drawings, it is going to be an additional cost. And those people are professionals and they don't come cheap. So bear that in mind. However, there's a spin-off to this. There's another part of this too. You still, as a non-architect, can produce drawings up to 5,000 square feet without having an architect stamp off on that drawings. But some parish council will still want you to have a professional engineer, a civil or structural engineer, to stamp off on the engineer part of that drawings, or probably stamp the entire drawings. So bear that in mind. So while in instances it might not require an architect to stamp off on the drawings over 5,000 square feet, it still does require a professional engineer to stamp off on those drawings. So bear all that in mind. Another part of this discussion that I want to bring to your attention, which I think it is very valuable for you to understand. So your drawings can be less than 5,000 square feet. That is produced by a draftsman or an architectural technologist that still require a professional engineer to stamp off on the drawings. So if you're drawing a small building, let's say for argument's sake, 4,000, 3,000 square feet, depending on the complexity of your design, it might require a professional engineer. So if you're going to have an extended cantilever or a suspended swimming pool, or design the building in a way that is going to require some amount of structural engineering input, you might require a professional engineer to stamp off on the drawings. So while you want to build your dream home, these are all factors that you have to consider. So if you want your building to be fancy and you want it to have special features like extended roof overhang that is going to need struts to support it to withstand hurricane wind force, a structural engineer have to be involved, and that is going to come with additional costs, especially some of these modern designs that I'm seeing with this extended flat roof overhang that's projected from the building eave 2 feet or more. that is going to cause you to have an engineer involved, and you know the drill already. More money. So I would advise, if you're planning to execute your building on a low budget or a medium-sized budget, keep it simple, right? Keep it simple so the approval process can be simple and you do not have to involve additional experts or professional to look at your drawings, and that is going to cost you more money for them to look at it, stamp off on it, or even as much as to give you advice. So bear that in mind. In summary of this discussion, I am going to point out to you that in the event that you're planning to build a commercial building, use a registered architect right off the bat. There's no question about that, especially if that commercial building is going to be of a certain complexity, because our architect is going to know how to design that building so that the public can utilize that building and that building is safe, right? So the architect will put features like your handicap ramp, your entrance and exits, in terms of the fire code, in terms of the building code, and in terms of having that building properly engineered, right? The architect is going to turn over the drawings to a structural engineer for the structural engineer to produce the structural drawings to carry the load or to ensure that that building or structure is safe to the public. So right off the bat, I would say, based on my experience, use a registered architect if you're going to do a commercial building of a certain size and magnitude. So that is it for this short video. Again, I'm just bringing these information to you so that you can make better decision if you're planning to build your dream residential home in Jamaica, so it don't cost you unnecessary costs that you do not have the budget to finance. All right, so as usual, watch the video until the end, like, share, and if you're a first time viewer of the channel, remember to subscribe. Maximum respect, love one and all. Thank you.